All right, Pisces, welcome to your yearly 2016 Sidereal Astrology forecast. This is for Sidereal Astrology. If you are new to the channel, be sure to check the description down below because your sign might be different. All right, Pisces, so a very transformative year, as you might imagine, as it has been the last part of 2015. And I want to show you actually the transit graph so you can see specifically what I'm talking about. As far back as August, we've had Jupiter squaring up to Saturn, which is going on all the way through this first half of the year. We've had Jupiter trining Pluto, which has all been about change and expansion, possibility for that going through this year. Healing with Jupiter opposing up to Chiron, and that uncertainty and doubt going into this year as well with Saturn squaring up to Neptune. So I'll talk more about these, but as you can see, there is a lot of that continuation energy. A lot of them do culminate or come to some sort of switch here mid-year. And then we don't set off into a whole new set of long-term energies until November, December time period going into 2017. So it's a definitive shift at the end of the year. So essentially what this is signifying here is that it's a year of growth. It's a year of working hard. Okay, we've got Saturn sandwiched right in between the north and south nodes, while at the same time we just so happen to have Jupiter going over the north node and Chiron going over the south node. Very interesting T-square. All right, and the eclipses are always associated with the north and south nodes, so that'll be activation points in March and September. And here it's the hard work and patience towards that. The north node is about the future life path, and with Jupiter, there's expansion, there's excitement, there's new insight coming in involving the new. But then at the same time, there's also old energies being released and healing taking place. And there's going to be a lot of healing with you, with Chiron shifting into Pisces here at the early part of this year, and he'll be there to stay. So any old wounds or insecurities about self being healed. Now there's also healing involving the deeper aspects of life. With the south node, slowly as the year unfolds, the first half, south node goes into your 12th house. All right, so it's all about that connection to God, having faith and trust. All of that has been tremendously important, especially with Neptune in that 12th. So that's the releasing point, and as you do that healing, right, in those areas, you're going to notice that there's more room for the new. And the new is involving specifically the work or diet or routine areas of your life, your 6th house. So it's essentially like developing crafts at work, perhaps. Some of you might be starting new work, starting new jobs, okay? Maybe taking a new shift, maybe a new direction. Maybe there's something motivating you there. Some of you, it could be a new routine, new health regiment, things like that, self-improvement in general. So that's the possibilities, and that's already been a place of expansion for you. You've already had Jupiter transiting that 6th house. So there's a lot of wisdom from the second half of 2015 now being accessed by that north node. But that's the new shift for you, coming out of the relationship stuff. Now, relationships is still very much expanding. You're going to have Jupiter go into that 7th house in August. All right, so your one-on-one connections, really start to expand, and there's more possibilities, and you're learning more about those areas of life, through relationships. But this early part, definitely inspiration, I would say, towards the more of the daily work stuff. All right, but to access that, it's about releasing the old and to work hard. Now, the working hard energy is from Saturn in your 9th house. And you may have noticed this the second half of 2015, where it's been important for you to really ground your philosophy, really work hard towards your ideals. All right, the 9th house. Maybe some of you might be doing university studies. Some of you might be going back for education. Some of you might be, learning philosophy, taking that very seriously. Some of you might be doing traveling or traveling for work, or just learning about life in general. So it's important to have that realistic view of life with Saturn in that 9th house, and through that, that's keeping everything nice and balanced, nice and strong and structured with these life path changes, because it really is the year of changes to the life path. Very inspiring, but also healing and allowing the old energies to be released. So you can see this by these transits. Jupiter's been squaring up to Saturn. So as of August, if you've been feeling like, there is areas you can work hard, you can expand, but grow and take that stern approach to things, then that's going to be, good energy to work with through May. And, and if you've been maybe started a new project, this all depends on your personal chart. But for some of you who started something new around that time, again, mid-year could be culmination of that. Jupiter trining up to Pluto, lots of changes. Right? It's a great year for change. And this is your traditional ruler. So there's a lot of changes with you taking place. A lot of patience and maturity in the picture, but there's a lot of change, a lot of healing with you also. Jupiter opposing up to Chiron, right? And then the faith and doubt and uncertainty. And the faith, is really needed with your life path, because that's where the strong, hard work is. And the faith is just needed in general, with your, and reestablishing that connection with God, and not so much in the conceptual sense, but feeling it, or both. So that's been Neptune, and working hard there at your spirituality this year as well. So you can see that shift right at the beginning of the year. January, Jupiter goes over that north node, creating that inspiration. In March, we have some more axis points. One in particular is the eclipses. And March 8th, we're going to have eclipse right on the cusp between your sign and Aquarius. So, right there on the cusp between you. So essentially what this means is a lot more new beginnings with you, with your goals, with your assertiveness, with your drives in life, which has already been the case, over the past, 2 to 2.5 years. But it's been all about releasing old concepts of self, releasing old concepts of what you might think your goals are, your ambitions are, etc. Right? And so it's so important to do that, releasing and non-attachment, because it's usually unhealthy patterns there or something, depending on your personal chart. But there's also healing taking place. Chiron's going to go into Pisces right at the beginning of the year. All right, so a lot of you are healing your identity, your confidence levels, and all of that. And through that, there is that rejuvenation, which again is that fuel for that north node to go into the self-improvement and the work, the crafts and things like that. So there's that healing, and then there's also that shift going into the 12th house, right? So watching the extremes too of the alone time or the retreating stuff, too much of the 12th house, and go into more of the grounding it. This is a shift where it's really about grounding your spirituality and living it, embodying it out in the world, 6th house. So that's March with the new beginnings with that, with self and healing and things like that. And then the lunar eclipse is on March 23rd. So it's also a culminating point, as it usually is, but here relating to relationships. So if there's been something new over the past 6 months as of March, or the past 2.5 years with relationships, could be a culminating point with that. But at the very least, an awareness in March in terms of how the relationships are unfolding, or your perspective on relationships. Then mid-year, like I said, pivotal point. The north node conjoins up with Jupiter again. Pluto trines up to the north node. We got a lot of these culminating energies from 2015. All right, so it could be that. But there's insight coming in, I feel like, with Jupiter joining the north node, and inspiration, but also confusion and doubt, perhaps, with Saturn squaring Neptune, And again, it's all about faith and trust for you, and that everything in the life path, is unfolding in divine timing, and to work hard at it, though. So with that shift, then we get into the next set of eclipses, which will be in September, which will also be a culmination of whatever healing and releasing that you've done since March involving self and spirituality. But also a new beginning with a solar eclipse on September 1st in Leo. So here's where we start to get into more of the new beginnings relating to your work, your diet, your health, your routine, whatever it might be. And that, again, can be very inspiring at that time. And at that time in September, things sort of clear up. Saturn makes his last aspect up to Neptune, right? And September 16th is the culmination point of those healing energies. And then the end of the year is essentially in October, the Neptune conjoining up to the south node, all right? And this is going to be, really activating that 12th house, where there's a lot of things going into your work. There's also that importance of faith and trust that I was talking about, but also some elements of it maybe. The unhealthy elements of maybe escapism, too much alone time, etc., that need to be released and to be, worked hard on with Saturn squaring up to both of those points at that time period. So, but things sort of build, and then they kind of, culminate in steps. Culmination being June, and the next culmination around that solar eclipse energy time, then October, and then, like I said, November, December, brand new energies, much more liberating. So this year, through that patience, through that hard work, but hard work from that inspiration, which is Jupiter in that north node, and through that healing and releasing, is creating a foundation for next year, 2017, which is much more freeing in nature, involving Uranus in your first house. Okay, so it's going to continue to be about you being your true self this year, but that'll really be activated 2017. This year is really about working hard on the life path, releasing old energies about self and spirituality, and moving towards the relationship stuff, as well as the work and routine stuff. All right. So Pisces, I hope you guys have a great 2016. I want to thank you all very much for all of your support, for liking, sharing, commenting, etc. It's been tremendously helpful. And as always, I'm here if you have any questions. Have a great one, and I'll see you guys next time.